Hey everyone, this is Oscar from Underdog, and let me tell you about Shepard Tones. A few weeks ago I did a video about risers, and if you remember, the core thing about a riser is that you have a kind of a synthesizer pitch at a stable tone, and then you use the pitch bend to bring it up a lot of semitones gradually in like a continuous rise, right? And so one of the challenges that you have there is that, well, it has to end at some point. The riser can't infinitely keep rising before it becomes like a kind of a deafening thing or only dogs can hear it. But let's say you've got a long section of a song where you want the energy to keep building and building and building. Well, how do you do that? Well, what you can do is use something called a Shepard tone, which is kind of like an optical illusion, but for your ears. It's a phenomenon that tricks your ears into thinking that this riser is continuously rising in pitch forever. Let me show you an example. Okay, this is never gonna stop, just so you know. I could keep dancing all day and I will spare you that. But as you can tell, this is an upward pitch bend with no logical endpoint. And how is it done? Well, what happens is you have one of the pitch bends that rises, and just as it's getting towards its maximum, you start another one, almost identical one, at the bottom, and you start bringing it up, and then you slowly fade out the volume of the top one and slowly fade up the volume of the bottom one. And then you do this consecutively again and again and again and again and again, so that it just constantly feels like it's going up. But by the time it reaches its maximum point, it kind of disappears, and your attention is grabbed by the one that's approaching the climax again. And then again, the same thing happens again and again and again and again in this never-ending spiral barber pole thing that is like an audio illusion, as I said. And so I played around a little bit with this principle recently on a track called Temple Dance that I released with my friend Anton under the name Face the Sun. Go follow the project on SoundCloud if you haven't already. And there I create a sequence of risers, each with a slightly different timbre, that's always going up and up and up and up. So you're always kind of guessing about where is the end point, when is the climax going to come. And so it's kind of a game of false endings. It keeps going up and then you're tricked. And it keeps going up and then you're tricked. And I think that on a dance floor, that's going to be freaking amazing. Now let me also address this comment right now. I almost never interact with negative comments because I don't want to feed that energy. But this one's particularly helpful because it's so silly. What the comment gets right is, of course, that risers are not appropriate everywhere. You don't want risers in every single place. And in many genres, they're just not appropriate. They are a little bit cheesy. But remember, they are just one trope, one tool in your toolbox. There's a whole history of classical musicians thinking that contemporary music is when art no longer becomes art. And then there's contemporary classical music who say that electronic music is no longer art. And then within electronic music, you've got people who say that distortion kills the art, or that if there's no melody, that it's not art. And honestly, can we all just agree that that kind of is a little bit of an arbitrary line? Anyway, what I'm saying is you don't need to use risers. Just think of it as a trope that is appropriate in some genres and styles and maybe not appropriate in other genres and styles, and then you can do with it what you will. But to say that it's art or not art, I think, frankly, is a little bit funny. Anyway, as I was preparing for this video, it occurred to me that there is another dimension to Shepard's tones that I haven't seen anyone ever discuss. And so I'd like us to think one step further than just this classical risers idea. What's actually happening is that there's a pattern that's moving towards its logical ending, and before it reaches its logical ending, another pattern comes up that supposedly is reaching its logical ending. And there's another dimension in music where we see this, and that is rhythm. You see, imagine the following pattern. Speeding up, speeding up, speeding up. That's almost like a riser, but in rhythm, right? And so you can use the concept of Shepard's tones there as well, because you can always divide a rhythm into multiples of itself, and then have those multiples speed up and have them being played by different percussion. So an example of a percussive Shepard's tone would be the following. Now, you've probably heard this in various EDM subgenres and in psytrance, and the artist that comes to mind for me is Infected Mushroom, who do this stuff all the freaking time. And no matter how artistic or purist your genre, you're not going to tell me that your genre is too good for snare rolls, and snare rolls are basically the same idea. So take this concept away, see what you can do with it, and show us on the Discord channel what you've made with it. Now, things like Shepard's tones are kind of like little cool tricks and facts, but if you're still a beginner at electronic music production and you want to learn in a systematic kind of way how to learn electronic music, then go have a look at my Foundations of Electronic Music course, which is where I have about 11 or 12 hours of structured content, including homeworks and things like this, where you can learn from absolute beginner to intermediate level how to produce electronic music. Follow my music projects Torque and Face the Sun on SoundCloud. Like the video if you found it helpful. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click the little bell icon if you want to help me with the algorithm. Come say hi to us on our Discord channel. And until next time, stay producing, be good to one another, and take care. Bye-bye.